What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. I'm Nicky Phenom, a singer-songwriter who has dared to dream and is now on a mission to capture that dream. I created this channel not only to share my original music, but also to document my journey and share some of my experiences in hopes that it helps to inspire, motivate, and educate you and others like us so that we can grow together as artists. In this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about some of the music that I grew up on and some of the performing artists that have intrigued me, inspired me, or influenced me in my musical journey in one way or another. I am an 80s baby and a 90s kid. I was born in 1983, and in just a few days I will be turning 43 years old. Look, I'm not happy about it. But I am happy to say that I've survived this long. I've made it. We're here, and I'm able to tell my story and hang out with you guys. So it's all good. And I'm actually, I do feel very lucky to have been born and raised in the times that I was, because I feel like I've kind of been getting kind of the best of both worlds, like seeing two different things, like, pre-social media and internet and all that stuff. I grew up that way, I guess in those older, times, right? But I was able to enjoy that. And then slowly, as I, came into my adulthood, right, I was watching the transitional period of, getting the internet and social media becoming a thing. And then watching that kind of develop into where we are today, which is now, where that stuff's just completely dominating. Social media is a huge thing. AI is, of course, getting real big now, and just this technology is just, rapidly developing. But it's been an interesting ride. So I'm okay with that, and I'm, like I said, I'm lucky to have experienced pre and post kind of times with that. So yeah, it's all good. I want to give you guys just a little bit of background, kind of a look into my family, so you can kind of get an idea of how I grew up. So I'm one of three children. I am the baby of the family. I have two older siblings. My sister is 14 years older than me. My brother is 10 years older than me. So yeah, huge gap in age difference. My parents decided in their later years that they wanted another baby, and so here I am. Because my parents had decided to have me in their later years, a lot of my friends when I was growing up, their parents were usually much younger than mine were, and because of that, I feel that that's part of the reason why we listened to different types of music growing up. In my friends, their households, they were listening to more like 70s and 80s music, some hip hop and some what we call classic rock now. And in my house, it was different. My parents were listening to stuff that was stuff they grew up on, right? So my house was playing a lot of 50s and 60s music, right? Which is a big difference, right? We had, we're listening to the doo-wop and the Motown, stuff like that. And that's mostly due to my mother, who was a huge music fan. She loved listening to music, man, and she had that stuff playing all the time. And so because I heard that all the time, like that's what I grew up on, because that's what she was listening to all the time. I grew to love 50s and 60s music. And I remember there was this radio station we used to listen to all the time that would play. It's been a long time, so I may not get this exactly right, but I believe it was referred to as the Good Time Oldies station. So that's what we were listening to, and I listened to it a lot too, because again, I loved the music as well. I would even listen to it going to bed at night. I would remember putting the radio station on, low, and just laying down to get ready to go to sleep, and I would just hear that as I fell asleep and throughout the night, until it was time to wake up and go to school the next morning or whatever, So, yeah, 50s and 60s, man, is what I grew up on, and I love it, and to this day, I still jam out to that stuff, man. I'm still rocking to that old school stuff, buddy, and I love it. So yeah, it wasn't until really like my later years, like well, when I became a teenager, right? In the '90s, I started, hearing some other things, and of course, I was hearing stuff from my older brother. He was really into like the hip hop, this type of scene, and so I was able to hear some hip hop and stuff. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't like how do you say it, like put on a leash or sheltered or caged and like you got to listen to 50s and 60s. That's all you can hear. So I definitely was exposed to other music. I just didn't hear it often enough to really know it. You know what I mean? So again, it wasn't until I got into my teenage years that I really kind of started to be more exposed to other types of music, and that's due to my friends and stuff, mostly sharing that kind of thing with me. So yeah, the 80s and stuff kind of came to me in my more later years, and even in recent years. Okay, now that I'm in my older adult years, I'm still learning about like hearing songs from like the 80s and stuff that I was like, oh man, I didn't even I didn't even realize what I mean, that was a song that I had never heard before or was unfamiliar with, or maybe I heard it before, but I didn't know the artist. I didn't know the names of these people or the bands. So it was, for me, it was all new, which is great, because some people might be tired of certain, music, or when I started, playing with the bands and stuff, and singing, performing, doing like cover songs, I noticed, some of these guys were kind of like, that song's played out, I want to hear some other kind of stuff, and we're looking to play some other kind of things. And for me, that was funny because to me, it's like it's new, right? I'm telling for me, I'm hearing this for the first time almost. Is what it feels like. It's not old to me because it's something I'm just kind of brand new experiencing. Yeah, so it wasn't until my older years that I began getting more exposed to like the 70s and 80s type of music. Like I know, the 80s rock was a big deal, but I wasn't really exposed to that because we didn't hear that in my house. And when I did discover it, don't get me wrong, it's not like I'd never heard it before as I was growing up, but I mean, it just wasn't like a thing that we heard. I didn't hear it often enough really to kind of become that familiar with it. Or to know the artists, or the name of the bands and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? I didn't go to concerts or nothing like that. It just wasn't talked about in my household. So, anyway, so that's kind of how that went. But yeah. So, again, I didn't really become familiar with these 80s style of music and stuff until my older years. So, with that said, now you kind of know what music I grew up on, and kind of like that's what really, that 50s and 60s music is really what resonated in my mind. And that's what I hold dear to my heart. And that'll never go away. Like I said, I love that old stuff. And it's not just because, it reminds me of being a young kid at home or that it reminds me of my mom. Although it does, right? But that's not why I love it. I can honestly say that I just appreciate what it was, what it is. And like I said, I still enjoy it. And you will still hear me every now and again. If you come to my house, we're going to be rocking that sometimes. My kids don't necessarily care for it that much, I'm sure. My roommate or my wife, it may not be their favorite, but we're going to listen to it because Nikki loves that stuff, and Nikki's going to listen to it. We're going to rock out some 50s and 60s, baby. And so now I would like to go ahead and just make some honorable mentions of some of the artists that have that really intrigue me, that I grew up on, and that that I like to listen to, that really just kind of made an impact on me. I got my notes here because I don't want to forget anybody. And by the way, I will not list everybody on here because it's just, I don't want to drag this video out too long. And I'm sure, this is just kind of off the top of my head right now. So I'm sure I'll probably look back at this video and go, oh man, I should have mentioned this person. But it is what it is. It's just not a big deal. Okay. Like I said, I'm just listing off a few. All right. Elvis Presley, the king. Got to put him in there, man, on the list for sure. Chuck Berry, one of the best to do it, best entertainers I've seen. Created what they referred to as a duck walk that he used to do with that guitar, and just an incredible performer. Jerry Lee Lewis, man, rocking out on that piano but still doing his thing. He wouldn't just sit still, you know what I mean? he was crazy. So very, very excellent showman. We have Ray Charles, incredible. Blind man playing the piano, doing it like he does. No other like him, man. He's amazing, amazing artist. Then we have Little Richard, another awesome piano player who rocks out, man, like no other. And I saw an interview with him. He actually claims that he actually was the original rock and roller. He started it. He was the first one that ever did like the ooh and ah, all those kind of like the crazy noises and stuff. That aren't necessarily like lyrics. And I don't know, man. Maybe he was the first. All I know is he was a bad dude, man. Little Richard's awesome. I'm trying to think of who else. Let me see what I got here. Oh, man. The man. James Brown. Ow. Dude, look. As far as stage performances go, I'd say that guy, man, I don't know. I mean, aside from who else, like Michael Jackson, who, again, one of the best of all times, James Brown, I think, is just elite, the elite of the elite. Top of the heap, baby. That guy was, I mean, the kind of confidence he had up on that stage, that commanding presence he had. Oh, man, that dude was bad, man. That dude's bad. Anyways, like I said, I don't want to drag this out. Then we got, let's see, Steven Tyler of Aerosmith. Incredible performer. I mean, obviously, I'm sure, you guys know who I'm talking about. He's got that incredible range. His vocals is just insane. And again, just one of the greatest to ever do it, man. And his style and his presence on stage, just amazing. A great songwriter. All that, man. So again, the dude's awesome, man. Very, very intriguing character. Who I love. I love listening to Aerosmith's music, and anything Steven Tyler does, I'm pretty much on board. Joan Jett, I also want to mention, freaking awesome. I mean, she changed the game when she came onto the scene, no doubt about it. She's a pioneer, man, for women in rock and roll. And she's just a badass. I mean, she was gonna do what she wanted to do, and that's all there was to it. And nobody was gonna tell her any different. And so yeah, Joan Jett, man, she's awesome. I also want to mention, believe it or not, Lady Gaga. Now, yeah, I'm fast forwarding a lot right now, right into the more modern times. But I just listen. Just watching her performances, whether you like her music or not, that's not even the case. I'm not. I do like her music. I'm not like a huge fan of like everything she does. But her performances is what I'm talking about. Her performances, aside from, she does have a great voice, by the way. I think she's an incredible vocalist. I think she's amazing. But it's those stage performances, man, that really get me. She is. I think she's one of the best to have ever done it. I love watching her perform on stage. She gets a little wild. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to get with her. You just know it's going to be something crazy. And so she's never boring, that's for sure. So yeah, Lady Gaga. And again, guys, like I said, there's a lot of artists I can go through right now that I can tell you that have intrigued me. Hell, Madonna, Prince, blah, blah, blah. It can go on forever. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that. And let's move it on to some of my more like artists that have more like influenced me and inspired me, that kind of have really helped shape my my music career. Okay, so we're down to 3 more names on the list that I want to throw at you guys. Now I saved these guys to mention them later because I feel these particular artists are a little bit more significant to having had like influenced, inspired, like kind of more like shaped my music career, right? Like and I'm speaking of more like performance wise, okay? Like my singing up on stage and performing on stage. These guys were more, I'd say, heavily more, influential to that. Not necessarily my writing, my musical writings. This does not really have anything to do with that. This is more about my mannerisms, my way of my stylistic, way of singing and performing on stage. When I got on stage, this is kind of the characters that I took on. Okay, and also two of them for very good reason. Because I was in a tribute band. All right, 2 tribute bands. So, 2 of these guys that definitely, of course, they had to influence me because I had to be that character, when I was singing as a frontman for those bands. So, anyways, let's go ahead and start with the amazingly talented and very interesting David Bowie. And today I'm wearing the T-shirt. We wear the Bowie in honor of him. I think it's just, an appropriate setting for that. He was absolutely amazing. One of the most talented artists that I know of, okay, and in my opinion. And yeah, some of his music was a little kooky and a little weird. I'll admit that. I'm not like a huge fan where I think, the albums, from the first track to the last track were just incredible. I just let it play, and no, there was some stuff where I was like, okay, I don't know if I can deal with this. I don't know if I can listen to this on repeat or whatever, But again, these are my, that's my opinion, right? But I would say a lot of his stuff I enjoy listening to. So again, I'm a huge David Bowie fan, and I remember when I first saw him, man, as I was a kid, and I didn't know who the heck he was. It was actually in that movie, and you probably know what I'm talking about. Labyrinth. Yeah, he played the Goblin King, Jareth, like the bad guy or whatever. But man, he was just too cool, right? I remember watching him and thinking, man, this guy's awesome, I know he's the bad guy, and he like stole the baby, and he's turning people, into goblins and whatever. But I like this guy. He was cool. He had like the cool outfit. His demeanor, his character was just really cool, and then when he started singing, I was just blown away. I was like, man, this guy's a rock star. And it wasn't until later, as I'm an adult, it's like, oh, he was a rock star, an actual rock star, and that's I didn't know who he really was at the time. So, anyways, I came to learn who Bowie was, and I just fell in love with his artwork, and so I went down a rabbit hole and started studying on him more, listening to more of his music, and yeah, man, he was I would say he's a lot of what I do, like my thought process and stuff, was very heavily influenced by him. He was super interesting. I mean, the guy was never boring, right? He would change so much, his character throughout the years, and throughout his career. You never really knew what you were going to get. You just knew that it wasn't going to be boring, and you knew it was going to be, very interesting and just something impactful, something that was going to make you go, wow. So, anyways, David Bowie, again, I had to mention him. Super awesome artist, one of my favorites of all time. And yeah, so there you go. David Bowie, one of the best. Next up, I want to mention Scott Weiland of Stone Temple Pilots and Velvet Revolver. I think he also, he did his own solo stuff as well. So I heard Stone Temple Pilots music and stuff, back when I was a kid in the 90s, when they were popular. But again, I didn't really keep up with like the artists' names, the names of the bands and stuff like that. Okay. I just knew that I liked the music, so I would recognize the music when I would hear it. So it wasn't until, again, my later years that I really got to learn more about who Scott Weiland is, or was as an artist. Okay. I was actually putting together a band doing some 90s stuff. And so I was putting all these 90s songs together, and I was like going to do like a kind of like a cover band for 90s music. Well, I came across STP stuff, and then it just, make a long story short, I was just starting to, really become intrigued by Scott Weiland, as a songwriter, as a performer, and I was just watching him. I was like, man. And then, come to find out, he was also influenced by some of the same people that I, felt the same about, some other artists. And so I just fell down this rabbit hole, man, and I just fell in love with who Scott Weiland was, and I just wanted to learn more and more about him. Very interesting character, and I think the way he performs on stage is just absolutely incredible. Just an amazingly talented person. I've watched his interviews because I used to study him, right? I'd watch his interviews and things like that. He's not, I got to tell you, forgive me, Scott, he's kind of a boring person to interview. I never really, it was interesting enough where I wanted to hear and I wanted to learn, and listen to what he had to say and learn more about him. But he was definitely a different kind of person when, he was on stage as opposed to, talking to the interviewer. But I had put together, I'm sorry, I might have went off track here. So when I got really stuck on Scott Weiland, I started realizing that I could sing a lot of his songs pretty well. So I started adding them to my 90s project. I had a lot of STP in there, a lot of Scott Weiland stuff. And then I had so many, after a while I thought to myself, man, I might as well let's just do a tribute band for now. Let's just do a tribute band to STP or whatever. And so, as you can imagine, he was definitely a heavy influence on me because he had to be. I had to kind of, I wanted to capture his essence because now I was going to be playing his character, so to speak, on the stage now because I'm singing his songs. Like I said, we were a tribute band. We were called Silver Gun Superman. And, it didn't last for a long time, but we did have, a few shows, and it was awesome. I enjoyed every bit of it. So again, yeah, Scott Weiland, I had to mention him as a very heavily influential artist on my career because I had to almost in a way be him for that tribute band. All right, and now for the big one. Drum roll, please. Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones, baby. Now, this guy, man, I think he's, in my opinion, dude, the best. And I'm saying that because of how long he's been around, guys. All the hits they have, the catalog from the Rolling Stones, and how long they've been around, from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s up till now. Mick Jagger at 80-something years old is still out there touring with the Rolling Stones doing his thing. Man, this guy's still rocking and rolling. Now, if that isn't jaw-dropping and inspiring and motivating, I mean, heck, I don't know what is. That guy is just, oh, wow. Wow. I mean, his mannerisms, his dance moves. I mean, heck, they even got a song, Moves Like Jagger, because, of how he is on stage, man. His energy is like no other, man. Incredible. The guy keeps himself in good shape. Amazing, amazing talent. And the reason he is my top of my list as far as my influences go is because when I was in the tribute band Crossfire Hurricane, which was a Rolling Stones tribute band, it was the same thing as I mentioned, kind of what happened with our STP tribute. It happened the same way. We were putting together, at the time I was with this other band, we were putting together songs, just a bunch of like top hits kind of thing, I guess like top 40s or whatever. But anyways, a big mixture of songs. And I noticed that we had a lot of Rolling Stones songs. So we kind of went along with that. And we accumulated so many of them. And not to mention the guys that I was playing with were saying, man, you do those songs really well. So I thought, why don't we do a Rolling Stones tribute? Just, again, for now, at least, until we decided to maybe add some other stuff to it. But let's do that. We got so many songs, So we did. And that was probably one of the biggest highlights of my career is, playing with that band. We ended up, playing at the Hard Rock, a sold-out show there, and it was just an amazing experience. I've talked about it in other videos. But yeah, so I had to really dig in and study Mick Jagger, man, and I just went down a rabbit hole, and I just fell in love with who he was as an artist, and the guy's just incredible. My mom was rocking out to his music, you know what I mean, when she was a kid, so growing up. So he's been around for a long, long time, and the fact that he's still doing it is amazing. In fact, it's a funny story. When I'm at the bar or something at a party, whatever, and I'm telling somebody about some interest that I have or things that I'm doing, sometimes people want to try to tease me and say, oh, aren't you a little old for that, or you're a little too old? I'm thinking, man, look, as long as Mick Jagger is out there at 80-something years old, still touring with the Rolling Stones, doing his thing on the big stage, don't tell me I'm too old to do anything. So, you know what I mean? So, yeah, that's Mick Jagger, guys. Mick Jagger. And I want to add, something about Mick Jagger. Look, I love Mick to death. I think he's amazing. But I will say he's not the best singer that I've ever heard. So I just want to throw it out there because that's something that I've always struggled with is singing. But I do pretty well singing his stuff because we're kind of in the same vocal range. I can do what he does. And I do it pretty well. And I just find that kind of, how do you say it, inspiring, like motivating for me to know that somebody who's not, he's not hitting out, crazy high notes and doing all this crazy dynamic stuff with his vocals. But he sounds good, man, and he's doing his thing, and his music is good. His mannerisms, his dance moves, his style, his demeanor up there, his presence on stage, all that. So yeah, he's just an amazing guy, and he's just my favorite. Mick Jagger's what always comes to my mind when I'm up there performing. I just think he's just one of the absolute best to have ever done it. Mick Jagger. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this one. I'm Nicky Phenom. Thanks for hanging out and watching. Please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so that way we can help to keep this going and keep supporting each other as artists. All right? And remember, keep rocking, follow your dreams, and believe it can happen.